the co-founder of Churn. We are a retention platform specifically for subscription brands, and we help with passive and active churn, which is a fancy way of saying we deal with failed payments and cancellation flows. And I think I bring a unique perspective today to the conversation around going up market and serving the needs of larger brands. Because although we're a software company, I think we actually share a lot in common with how a lot of agencies are operating and how we approach business. So let me see here. Before I jump in, I'll just share a little bit about us. So like many of you guys, we have not raised venture capital and we're not seeking an exit. Nor are we dependent on one. Our goal has always been to build a resilient, profitable, efficient business that can be around for 20 plus years, however long we want to do it. And I think we also face similar challenges in the landscape in that things change super quickly. Basic offerings become commoditized, competitors come in the space, and things that once really set you apart become table stakes. And what we found is as we focus more at market, that's really become a moat for us. The deeper we go into our niche and the bigger the companies we serve, it's really kind of protects us from this changing landscape. So I hope I'm able to share a few nuggets today that resonate with you. Not just to stay ahead of this curve and changing landscape, but to run more enjoyable, healthier businesses, seeking challenging work, building happy teams, happy customers. So, when I was thinking today about how to distill down these lessons I want to share, it kind of came back to the whole theme of clarity and confidence. What has been a really driving force for us as we go up market has been to go beyond being just a vendor and becoming like a true partner to these companies. They're not coming to us just for access to our software. They want us to be the experts. They're coming to us to solve a really specific problem and to solve it well. So to pull that off, the only way we can do that is to work with ideal fit companies so that they can have a great experience with us and that we can continue to grow via referral, which is how we've always grown in the 10 years we've been in business. So some of the things I'll share today might seem obvious in retrospect, but they all were actually like a pretty key turning point for us as we learned these lessons over the years. So our first big lesson, between like 2013 and 2018, we were serving every market with subscription, SaaS, digital subscriptions, streaming services, memberships, coaching apps, you name it, and dipping our toe into e-commerce. And as we knew we wanted to go further up market and work with bigger brands, it was apparent pretty quickly that we could not be everything to everyone. So in 2018, we had our team retreat. And we started segmenting our customers and looking at all the quantitative data of who would be like the ideal vertical to really focus on. But then beyond that, we wanted to look at things like who was the happiest working with us, who saw the most value in what we were doing, where were the most interesting problems to solve, which markets were growing. And by the end of this retreat, it was pretty apparent that we were going all in on e-commerce. And what that did was, as you can see in the chart, it allowed us to go deeper and solve kind of the thornier issues that they were facing, work with larger companies, and this focus is obviously a really key inflection point for us as a company. Another big lesson, reducing friction. Working with smaller companies, the sales process was very easy to get in the weeds. There's a lot of interest on how you do what you do. They tend to sort of pick it apart a little more. And as we started pitching larger companies, we wanted to like jazz hands all these features that we have and show them how we do all the things they do. And it just kind of killed the sales process. We would bring up anything about email, and now their email marketing team's in. and we'd bring up some other aspect of the product, and now a whole nother team is in. And everyone wants to optimize 1,000% their little piece before we're even off the ground, and the sale wouldn't close. And so now we're really just focused on outcomes, which also aligns with this idea of us being a partner and not just a vendor. And the conversations go so much smoother. We're really aligned with the goals, the outcomes. We build trust that we know how to do it, and they don't really care how. Another lesson we learned was to slow down our playbook. We used to want to hit it out of the park on day one. We would optimize every little thing we could before we would turn anything on. And the question that everybody had at the end of this big delivery, where, our ta-da moment, they say, well, what else? What else you got? And so it took something that could have been a really good experience, and then it felt kind of flat. So we developed our playbook and really formalized that. And what it did was it slowed down how we deliver these wins to our clients, and we bring them along for the journey. So we can still deliver really big out of the gate, but then we work together and we kind of take them along for how we're going to get those next incremental gains as we go. And not only has that helped the sales process, but it's been a huge trust builder in these relationships with the bigger companies. Leaning on vertical benchmarks. This is also something that I think is just in human nature. Whatever result we can tell a client that we achieved, the question is that good? Everyone wants to know how they're doing compared to their peers. We've been doing this for 10 years. We've worked with thousands of companies. We have so much data around verticals and retention rates, not just on the high level, but digging down deeper. And so this is a really great place to lean when people want to know, how are we actually doing? Another big theme with the large companies is that they've got the volume to go really, really deep, and they're used to going deep with all kinds of other things they're doing outside of retention. The segmentation can go any possible way they want it to go because the volume is there. So being able to steer how we run experiments for retention and how we decide where the next biggest impact is going to be is really huge. A large client, a small client might say, can you improve my retention rate 10%? A large client will come in and say, can we segment people that bought this SKU that came in from this acquisition channel and purchased more than 2 times? So the short answer to that is yes, but you could say that about every possible segment. So how do we help them figure out where to look? Again, that goes back to vertical benchmarks. A couple years ago, we started seeing cases where companies in the same vertical, in this case it was 2 large coffee companies, that were running the exact same retention process with us, have completely different outcomes. And it's not just a cherry-picked example, because the company that was getting a 17% rate was still well below the median for the vertical. So we're like, what's happening here? And we started to really connect the dots with what's happening upstream. So we're seeing like the tail end effect, this lagging indicator of churn at the end. But when we can segment down and see, well, company A is bringing people in with free product, aggressive discounting, they're putting them in a subscription when it's not clear that they're signing up for anything. Second company is building their tribe. They're bringing people in that are really bought into the product, they love it, they want to keep it. High level, you can kind of see like that's obvious, but what we can do is once we segment out these customers that the poor performing company was bringing in, and just look at maybe the people they brought in properly, now you can see that their benchmarks are actually in line with everyone else in the vertical. And so they're not just dragging down some global number of retention. You can actually like break these people out and say, all right, now our problem isn't that we have 17% rate, it's that we have this segment over here that we need to treat differently than this segment. So that's just one example. But again, leaning on vertical benchmarks can really guide these companies and help them have confidence that they're not doing anything out of line with what's happening in their vertical. So hopefully some of those were helpful to you guys. I think, bringing it back around to this idea of confidence and clarity, we're all trying to build these partnerships as we go up market, and building that trust kind of creates its own referral engine, these long-term relationships where people stick around for years and years. And I think that's the goal for everybody. So if you want to learn more about how we can work together, come find us. Sam, Mark, Ward, and I will be around today, and hope you enjoy the day. Thank you.